Did you miss me last week?
Ovs. Have we stories to discuss?
Natch.
I'm Alex.
I'm Rob.
And this is the Walford Weekly podcast, Ovs.
Natch.
Hello everyone and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes released on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 28th of November to Thursday the 3rd of December. Yes, we are back for episode 185 and couldn't do it with anyone else other than Rob. It's good to see you back too, Rob. How are you?
Thank you very much. Hello, Alex. Hello, Alex. How are you this week? Are you alright? Hello, everybody. It's been a while, hasn't it? Bit of time. It feels like ages since we've done this.
Yeah, it does. It's been a long gap, but I feel like a nice rest because I don't know about you, but if we were to sum up last week, I wouldn't say it was a fabulous week last week. So I feel like to be able to do it this week, where a bit more's happened and we're heading more toward Christmas for more shenanigans, let's just say, is a lot more exciting things to talk about, perhaps.
Well, you're only saying that because you went out for a night out last week and you've been hungover for a week. It's the only reason. It could have been anything could have happened last week. It could have been the climax to every single story ever made. And you'd be like, no, do you know what? It was good that we missed last week. I was fine. You know, I could have done without last week. So the question on everybody's lips is, did you have a nice time on your night out, Alex? Did you make a fool of yourself? Did you give kisses to anybody? What happened? How was your night?
Well, I think it should be kept quiet for what I did on my night out. I would just suffice to say that I did drink a heck of a lot. And as you say, my hangover wasn't quite a week long, but it was a good couple of days. I'm getting too old to do this kind of stuff nowadays.
Can't do it anymore.
Yeah, it is. It's an age thing.
We ain't
but I did have fun.
anymore.
I did have a lot of fun. No, not by a long mile for me. And also this is only my first one. I've got a second one coming up as well, nearer to Christmas. So, you know, I'm a lucky sausage. I get to go out twice this Christmas, making up for the Christmases that we missed. I say we missed. Some members of a certain party in the UK didn't miss many Christmas parties last year, but a lot of the majority of the public did. Anyway, that's my one political moment. I've moved out of the way. I didn't get to do my rant this week because we didn't have a Walford, you see, so I had to do a little rant now. It's just a little rant now.
It's been bubbling up inside you, hasn't it?
Like venom. It's just like bile, I should say. It's just coming there, just waiting to come pop out again. But we have lots to talk about this week. And I think a good place to start would be with the Slaters, specifically with Eve, who's helped the Slaters out this week by getting Jean's money back by faking her bad back ailment to Ash and getting Ash to write out a real subscription for her to get medicine, despite not being able to because she can't write subscriptions for friends or family. I mean, Eve. Is Eve really a friend of Ash's? Is this really
I don't think
a
so.
threat that she carried out? No.
I mean, I was a bit confused by the whole sort of Ash just pulling a notebook out of her handbag. That's fine. I'll give you tramadol, only the strongest prescription drug that you could possibly get, as opposed to one step down from liquid morphine or something. So no, there you go. What does she write on this? If you can just write them on the spot, like, dear pharmacist, please prescribe this lady some tramadol. Love, Ash. Kiss. See you at the Christmas party. Is that, I don't.
Yeah,
anyway.
all the best.
All the best. Love, Ash. So
I think doctors do get to carry a script book with them, don't they? So
Is
they
that what
can
it was?
write out a script if they need
yeah.
to. But it's the fact that she said
struck
like
off.
as her excuse is like, I can't really write one out for a friend. Well, no, she was struck off. But technically she's still training to be a doctor, right. So I think she's just got the black mark next to her name. So if she did something wrong again, then she'd be struck off. And then Suki this week then said, I've bought the building, I've bought a practice for you to become a GP. So then there was that added pressure as well. I mean, it was a silly mistake by Ash, to be fair. But at the same time, I don't think the threat was there. Because like you say, did she write on there, to my best friend?
Yeah.
To my best friend, have some tramadol.
Yeah.
All the best, Ash. It's like,
well,
it
I think
seems
she was
strange
flirting,
that was the threat.
She was flirting. Ash had her flirt on this week, and Eve, apparently being this master manipulator, was, absolutely fine with that. Saw a way in. I'm not quite sure how far ahead she planned with this. Like, she started having these back problems in the Suki Mart, and then sort of collapsed to the ground. And then I guess was kind of hoping that Suki would be like, right, my daughter's a doctor, come on, deal with her, and then everything will be fine after that. If Suki had just called another doctor or said, stop faking, get out of my shop and throw her out on the streets, I'm not sure what would have happened. But Eve's plan apparently went to absolute perfection because the idea was that, and also Ash managed to get herself in trouble for exactly the same reason as to how she got in trouble last time, as in giving drugs to people when she really shouldn't have been. That's the one rule that she has to follow. Same thing. The one rule that she has to follow as a doctor. She's not very good at this. Learn your lesson, Ash. God. And it's always to do with someone she fancies as well, isn't it? Because she fancied Peter at the time. She's like,
yes, because it was Peter.
I'll give you morphine. And then she had her eye on Eve, which was like, yeah, I'll give you
Peter
tramadol.
Was screaming. It was a bit different because at least Eve was a little bit more subtle with it, while Peter was screaming the roof out the hospital. Was like, give me drugs, while Eve was like, give me some drugs and I'll make it worth your while later on. So there's definitely, like you say, it was definitely flirting going on there. Eve stole the money, didn't she, from the Panasar safe? Kheerat had found out or caught her.
Yes, Ash. Ash
had. Sorry, thank you. Ash had, and Kheerat had found her doing it, stopped her, but then covered for Ash later on when they told Suki why they paid the money back to Jean. But then when Suki worked it out, they were quite. They said, we've all made mistakes, and who are you to tell us or lord it over any of us that you've done anything wrong? And that seemed to hit home with Suki later this week as well, because when she went into the cafe and saw Honey again.
Yeah. Although there was a very little odd scene with Eve afterwards. Obviously Suki and Honey had that little thing where Honey was literally like, I've nothing to say to you, goodbye, and was kind of stormed out. And then Eve kind of came in and saw that Suki was upset and was just like, hello, I got you, that's fine. You're alright though, talk if you want to. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you pretending that you care? I'm surprised Suki walked out and ignored her. But Eve had the nerve to sit there looking, oh, you want to talk to me now? That's upsetting. I thought we had a thing. I thought we had like an understanding that, a rapport, as it were. It's like, honestly. Yeah, I didn't quite understand that. But, yes, so basically, because Eve has now managed to blackmail Ash, they've sorted out this whole thing with the Slaters' money. They've now got all their entire deposit back. So the Slaters' problems at the moment are alright. They're sat there living in Phil's house. It's very odd seeing all of the Slaters in Phil's house at the moment. Like, Phil would have sat there having a coffee and then Stacey will walk into the room. It's very odd to sort of see. Have we spoken about the interior?
I feel sorry for Phil.
You do, yes. Well,
yes, that's what I was going to say. And the interior. Yeah. I feel sorry for Phil for the fact that he just seems to walk in on the Slaters doing something. It's like, he's a bit like Charlie, isn't he? Like, Charlie had to live in this house, with all the Slater girls. And Phil's become like the new Charlie Slater, bar him driving a black cab around London. And as you say, the interior of the house. Come on then. What did you think mostly of the interior in the house?
See, I saw the picture of it and I was like, well, that's a choice. But then once it was on screen, I think my eyes got used to it quite quickly. At the first, because it did look a little bit like a sex therapist's office at first, but it would do because Kat designed it. And what else is she going to make a room look like? Yes. Any room. She could make any room look like a sex therapist. She could make a morgue look like a sex therapist's office. But I'd love to know how long they're planning on keeping the Slaters, like, basically under Phil's feet. Because at the minute he has got to contend with Jean, Stacey, Eve, all the kids, Kat, just Phil, kind of sat there like, I just want to read the paper. I just want to read the paper and rant about the government. That's all I want to do. Just wants a
quiet life.
But he just wants a quiet life. You know what Phil's like. He doesn't like noise. He doesn't like drama. He just likes a quiet life and wants to just sort of sink into the background and just rant a little bit. But no, he can't do that. So, What do you think? How long because now they've got their money. Because now they've got their money back. What's the Slaters' next move? They're going to be looking for a new property. Are they going to try and buy the house back off Suki again? What's the plan?
Well, I would hope they find somewhere to live, because if I was Phil, I'd be pretty peed off. The fact that, like, 2 months ago, Phil, point blank, wouldn't allow Billy to stay in his house, and now he's let the whole Slater family, including Scarlett as well, because let's not forget they've been looking after Scarlett, as you know, like everyone is in that house under one roof. That's so true. Presumably the Slaters are going to find somewhere to live. We found out, didn't we, that there is a house available. It's Ruby's house. Ruby's house is now available because obviously Sharon looked into it this week. But I don't think Sharon's going to end up getting it now. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I think potentially perhaps that could be a house for them to move into. And obviously Martin's quite used to that house too. So maybe Martin then could move out of Sharon's flat and then move into the house with the Slaters as well, be closer to his family, his kids. But I think Kat has to stay with Phil now, surely, because she's decorated it to her taste.
You think?
There's no reason for her to move out anymore.
Although I can sort of, but then at the same time, I can sort of just see them like doing something where Phil and Sharon end up getting back together, and Kat moves out, and they just leave the living room like that. They just never mention it again, and we always just look at Phil's living room as well. That was the time when Kat and Phil were an item, and it's just never mentioned again. Anything's possible. Let's be honest.
That's true. Talking about anything being possible then, as I alluded to just a second ago, we have Sharon's story, where this week she decided that she was going to try to get custody of Alyssa from Jada, prompted quite heavily by Phil. I mean, Zack and Martin were, arguing that, you've got it good already. It's everything seems to be fine. Jada's listening to you. She's become a better person, a better mum. She seems closer to Alyssa because of what you've been encouragingly doing for her. And then all it took was Phil just to kind of strut around, groan a little bit, moan that perhaps she's going to run away with the child at some point, and Sharon's mind suddenly clicked, and it's like, well, you know what, actually, Phil, this man who pretty much made my life hell, clicked his fingers and basically did what he told her to do yet again. Did you think Sharon was right to follow Phil's advice this week, or do you think that Sharon should have just carried on the way she was going? No.
Give me a single example in the whole of the EastEnders history when it's been a good idea to follow Phil's advice. Ever. I mean, even we all know that Phil and Sharon have, this connection that will clearly never be broken. If everything that's happened over the past 2 years hasn't been enough to break the Sharon and Phil connection, then nothing will. He effectively killed her son, but that's, nothing. Nothing can break these feelings that Sharon will always have for old Baldy Mitchell. Nothing ever will change that. But even I was amazed at the speed in which Sharon's mind was like, because she said, or she spent the first half of the week saying to Phil, look, no, you're wrong. You're out of order. Just because Phil started grunting, Jada, terrible person, that's a baby in a basket, as though that's the worst thing that Phil's ever seen anybody do to a child, incidentally. Sure, all right there.
Yeah.
And then, and he's basically trying to imply that Jada is just after Sharon's money, which Sharon's like, no, don't be ridiculous. It's a silly suggestion, no. And then all that has to happen is that Jada turns around and says to Sharon, something like, oh, fancy, like, you could take the kids to the zoo. You're like, you must be loaded to live in a flat like this. Done deal. Sharon's like, oh, right, well, she's after my money. That's it. That's clear. Like, she's a money grabbing little bitch. I need to speed up the process to get Alyssa away from her. I also wasn't quite sure why Jada ran away with Alyssa, because the whole point of her leaving Alyssa on Sharon's doorstep was presumably to leave Alyssa in Sharon's care. So as soon as Sharon turns around and goes, right, well, let's get this paperwork done. Right, I'm taking the baby. You're a bag out of order, and runs away.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I think that Sharon looked after the kid. And as I said, I think that she kind of taught Jada kind of to be more nurturing, to look after her child better. And so I think Jada then felt closer to her child, and so it made some sense that much. I mean, you say that like Jada ran away with Alyssa, but really she is the mum, so like there was no kidnapping involved. Really,
well,
she was like, taking her child, going somewhere else with her child. So yes, I mean Sharon hadn't pushed the signing yet. I mean, Zack did have a word in Jada's ear and said, like, I think that Sharon is going to kind of encourage you to perhaps hand over paternity to her. But it's still 100% Phil's fault. Phil was the one who kind of pushed the idea when they had a good thing going to begin with. Yeah, but they had a good thing going, and like they had the shared custody, and now she's got nothing. She had a shared custody, and now she has nothing at all, where she was trying to get everything. I just think that was such a silly suggestion by Phil. But again, gung-ho, bulldozing. But also, why does Phil feel like this is his grandchild? Because Dennis wasn't his son. He kept going on about how he felt like it was Dennis's son, conveniently, 9 times out of 10, especially for the storyline with Boat Week. but like he wasn't. So
No.
what real maternal connection does Phil really have? Other than, like, he was with Sharon for a little bit, you know?
But
this just
to be
feels
fair,
like a
though,
control thing for me. That
Oh,
Phil
that's
is
all it's ever
controlling
been
Sharon.
with Phil. That's all it's ever been with Phil. Phil has always done this. You know, Phil's very good at sort of applying his own logic to situations and saying, "Well, I was in that kid's room. I've looked after that kid for at least 5 minutes. I'm its dad now." Essentially, like he can apply that logic to a sort of any kid that he's come across over the years. You know, so. I mean, I get it in terms of Phil's perspective, like, you know, everything that happened, because we are clearly supposed to be under the misapprehension that Phil was far less responsible for Boat Week than Ian was, or something. So it's what Sharon believes. So who are we to argue with Sharon? So yeah, now the plan is what exactly? Because Jada came back. Brought the baby back, said I was an idiot. I'm so sorry. After Zack sort of rang up and said, "Are you sure about this, Jada? Do you want to bring the kid back? I think we can talk about this, can't we?" So she brings the kid back. But you're right. This is the thing. Jada has now become much more maternal after 2 weeks with Sharon, super nanny Sharon.
Yeah,
It was basically
that's all it takes.
Sharon is Joe Frost, and she's turned this kid. Jada into the best mum ever, gave her 20 quid and told her to go and get herself a face pack or something, and Jada comes back with bags of baby clothing. So she's clearly slowly getting used to the idea. And what we've essentially got is a kid, understandably, that was 14, 15, pregnant, oh no, what do I do? And has now decided to sort of maybe get a bit more involved in the baby's life. So this, to me, smells of something that's going to be quite lengthy in the grand scheme of things. We're going to have a lengthy old saga of Sharon trying to get Alyssa to kind of retain any connection that she has to Denny, and with it being Denny's offspring. And Jada is probably going to be disposed of in some way. Knowing Phil, he'll probably inadvertently kill her. Sharon will witness that and say, "That wasn't your fault, Phil. That's absolutely fine. It was an accident."
Yeah, it wasn't
honestly.
your fault.
It was probably Zack. Let's blame it on Zack. It was probably Zack. I need to kill Zack or something. You know, where do you think it's going to go from here?
He was there. It's Zack's fault.
There. Yeah.
I think it's going to be more about how we're going to see how Phil feels about him and his connection with Raymond as well. I think that he's going to suddenly think and look at things and think, you know, my son is only over the square and I don't have a very close connection with him. And although I've tried in my power to try to take over control of Raymond, it's not really worked out. I've seen that Sharon took the risk and it's not worked out with her either. So perhaps then now we're going to see that Phil's going to take a huge risk and somehow get his son back with Raymond. I just think that there's that connection too. And with relation to Sharon, I think that Sharon perhaps... I don't think it's all going to end up fine in the end, because let's be honest, like Jada and Sharon are... I think that Jada will see the light eventually, and there'll be some really nice scenes with Jada and Zack too. But yeah, I like you say, I think it's a long-term plan ahead. But I do think that route will go down Phil's kind of thinking and what's been happening with Phil right now.
Yes, I agree.
Right, next story then. And we're going to move on then to actually talking about Denise actually and Raymond, but more of Kim this time, because Kim has finally got Pearl into a private school, but unknowingly thinks it's through a scholarship. But it's not through a scholarship. It's actually through Denise paying, although Kim has been very implicit that she doesn't want any dirty Mitchell money. So, doesn't know, but probably won't be very happy when she finds out. But Kim also, this week, decided to lay some flowers for Vincent and bumped back into Howie. Is there obviously going to be a connection between Kim and Howie then? So where do you think this story is heading?
Oh, probably. There's been much less, sort of tenuous links to get two people together in a relationship in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised. Yes. Well, the whole thing with Kim this week is that she has, since we last spoke, Kim has become rather obsessed with the idea of getting, Pearl, a scholarship of some degree, and like getting her into a school for ridiculously smart children because she's decided that Pearl's a genius and deserves to be at Mensa. So, or something. So at first she started, doing like a fan building page to try and get everything she's been doing with the social media and those live links and those live videos, has basically been all about getting money, to get Pearl into sort of the highest achieving school possible, to make her the new Libby, and sort of raise her social standing in all different schools. As it turns out, absolutely nobody that she sent the fan link page to was interested in giving a single penny to Pearl's education. I can't think why. So Kim's Kim's first idea is to set up an OnlyFans, which I quite liked. I thought, to be fair,
I thought that too.
A man of ways to earn money. If you want the link to mine, by the way, it's in the. We'll put it in the show notes below. I haven't got one.
I've seen it. It's shocking. There's nothing Rob won't do for money. Trust me.
No, the things you could do with a cucumber, you would not believe. Anyway, so the shocking, and yet, yeah. Anyway, so
slightly arousing.
A little bit. You tried the courgettes and the aubergines. Anyway, so the wet celery and the flying helmet. Yes, so
what Rob can't do with the butternut, I will never know.
It's not worth doing. If I can't do it, it's not worth doing.
Not worth mentioning.
Not worth mentioning. No. So yes. But it turns out that Denise has had something to do with this. Now, can you explain this a bit to me? Because if I'm perfectly honest, my attention sort of wavered with this whole Kim thing, because it's sort of gone this way and gone that way. So Denise somehow has been instrumental in Pearl getting this scholarship. Is that right? And how does that happen?
Yeah, so Denise basically paid for the school, but then had a letter made up. I'm presuming she mocked up a letter saying it was a scholarship. Or maybe she asked the school to send the letter saying it was a scholarship.
That's probably more likely, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Kim didn't want anything to do with any of Phil's money, because I think she associates the fact that Denise's salon came back because Phil helped. The salon's doing very well, apparently, as well. Like you say, like your attention to this story goes up and down, up and down.
Mm.
That the success of that salon seems to do the same kind of path as the roller coaster too. Some weeks they're struggling. There's not money in the pot. Patrick can't have that extra whiskey in the Vic this week. For other weeks, you're paying for private education at £20,000 a pop.
The business graph of that salon must be like looking at the COVID results, going up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yes.
Each new variant comes into play as each new Mitchell comes into play. You know, the results are varied, left, right, and centre. So yes, Jack then has a conversation. I think it's Jack. He then has a conversation with Kim at some point, and because she's saying, all I want to do is really speak to Vincent. I'd love to speak to Vincent and just sort of, get a few things off my chest. And Jack suddenly turning into Simba of The Lion King and like sort of being all Rafiki on her. Was sort of kind of like, well, you can always talk to him. He's always there. He'll always hear you. Sort of just saunters out in the clouds. Yeah. So Kim takes a massive bunch of lilies to the site where we saw Vincent die almost hundreds of years ago. I don't know what she was planning on doing, just sort of laying these lilies in the wreck of some car and then sort of having a monologue in front of a car as it gets turned into a cube in front of her or something. I don't know what her. I don't know
it felt
quite
peculiar,
what she was doing.
didn't it? That
it felt a bit odd.
Yeah, she took these flowers to this car wreck, this car lot, and just kind of walked around with these flowers, and no one questioned it either.
No,
not one person questioned it whatsoever.
Must be a regular thing. Must be a regular thing. Oh, it's another one. Another one brought lilies. Yeah. I'll take them back for the wife. She'll be happy. Yeah, I annoyed her last night. I was like,
to be fair, Howie did say to Kim when they first met that a lot of people tend to take cars there, and he turns a blind eye. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's like it gets more business in the graveyard. Like you see all the flowers just laid around random cars, cubes of metal, where people have their old Vauxhall Cortina was.
You've got all these bunches of lilies hanging down from the car dashboards like air fresheners, just waiting to be sent off to be scrapped. So as regards to Howard and Lily, were you surprised to see Howard again this week? Because I didn't think we were going to ever see Howard again. After Phil scared him off, I thought that was the end of Howard. So it seems that he's back again.
Yeah,
I honestly, I think you're right.
I was surprised to see him.
Kim and Howard are the new thing, aren't they? I think that's probably where it's going to go down that route at some point. It's not the maddest. Let's be honest, it's not the maddest thing that we've ever seen in EastEnders in recent years. No? Yeah, sure. Those two will get together. Absolutely. Sure. I think
sure, why not?
That's it. Sure, why not? I think the big thing to come out of this week really is, in a roundabout way, is that Kim discovered that Phil is trying to keep people quiet, essentially, which I think is going to then confirm to her Phil was definitely involved in Vincent's death. So I'm assuming that all of that was basically just to give Kim that sort of confirmation that she's kept quiet about for about a month now, where she thinks that Phil is instrumental in the death of her ex-husband. And now she's had Howard's confirmation, and I quote, big, bold bloke, scared, which, to be fair, is just the stuff. That's just bad. And if you went to anybody in Walford and said, someone did something to me, oh, who was that? Can you describe big, bold bloke, Phil? It's Phil.
It was Phil.
Essentially, yeah, it was Phil.
Says A a lot. Says A.
Yeah.
And he looked like he knew what he was doing. Oh, Phil.
Yeah.
Phil.
Yeah, Phil. Yeah. So, yeah, where do you think it's going to go from here? I mean, now Kim has got us bee in her bonnet and is probably now absolutely convinced that Phil murdered Vincent and stuffed him in a, which is ironic, really, that he ended the way he did after what happened to Fat Boy. I think essentially Kim thinks that what Vincent accidentally did to Fat Boy, Phil deliberately did to Vincent.
It's a Mitchell thing, isn't it? You just kind of throw him in a boot of a car. That's what old Ronnie did as well, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it's just going to be lots of throwing accusations out there, and Phil threatening Denise, saying like, "If she learns any more, I'll take money away." Again, I think it's going to link to Raymond as well, which is why I said earlier about the story with Sharon, and I think that's going to then turn the cogs in Phil's head about Raymond. I think this is also linked to that too. So I think ultimately the goal is that Phil is going to be like super upset with Denise and the accusations, and maybe want to get revenge through his son, getting his son back, something along those lines. But I'm up for a bit of relationship with Kim. I mean, she spent pretty much her whole time returning by building relationships with other people, so I feel happy that Kim's going to start building relationships too. And we learnt this week that Kim was lactose intolerant.
It's dangerous throwing things like that into scripts randomly, isn't it? Because that's an actual allergy that can kill people. You can't just throw things like that into a script, because then all you're opening yourself up to is people going through YouTube and going through the archives. Well, she had a cup of tea here. Oh, look, she's drinking a glass of milk there. Oh, look, she's eating cheese there. Or even by Christmas week, why is Kim eating a massive plate of milk tray when she's lactose intolerant? It's a silly thing to put in the script. I guarantee by the end of this year, there will be something that we say, Kim was drinking milk, Kim was drinking, doesn't look like lactose intolerant there, does she? Guarantee it. Silly thing to do. Silly thing.
Just directly underneath the udder of the cow, squeezing it like that. They somehow shoehorn that into a scene. Next story then is the relationship between between Janine and Mick, where Mick had organised Janine to have a play date, a meeting with Scarlett, convincing Kat that everything's okay, using the good old term of "it's Christmas." You know, you can basically pave any way by just saying it's Christmas. But Janine wasn't very happy because she felt like, Janine wasn't very happy because she felt like that Mick had been interfering. And so this is the first time where you saw Janine see a chink, kind of like a chink in the chain of Mick, because she felt like that he was being a bit too interfering with her life. Was Janine right to feel that way toward Mick? Or, I thought what Mick did was quite a kind thing.
Well, it was quite a kind thing, but Janine's, it's the thing, Janine's the sort of person that doesn't really like, the only time Janine ever likes anybody to give her help is if it involves handing over thousands and thousands of pounds. So, to do some sort of kind gesture doesn't really register with Janine. So what are you getting involved for? I can do that. Bugger off. So, yeah, it's a shame to see. Especially seeing as though Mick, slowly but surely, seems to be sort of welcoming Janine into the family, having her involved in the traditional annual Carter Christmas photo in front of the Christmas tree, all that sort of thing. I think it's quite interesting, this, because Janine seems to be sort of looking at Mick as a sort of Frank-type character, doesn't she? I felt that she was... I mean, this is Janine that's queen of the daddy issues, isn't it? So, all the issues that she's ever had with Frank, and, having a conversation with Mick, where Mick said he sounded like he was a great father, not even Janine could agree with that. Janine just kind of kept quiet, was just like, he was alright, the man. Because Frank wasn't a good father in any sense of the word. Bless him, we love Frank and we miss him dearly. But nobody could have... Oh, come on. Tell me ways in which Frank Butcher was a good father. For EastEnders standards.
I would argue that Frank made a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
The car lot, a car accident with Tiffany. You know, there was a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
But he's a very flawed character. But I would say the one thing he was always loved was his family, and whether he looked after his family rightly or wrongly, he always loved his family. And I think,
I'm not saying.
Yes, he did make a lot of mistakes with Janine, to be honest, especially when she was very young. No, when she had her anger issues at a very young age, but. I don't know. I'm watching classic EastEnders at the moment. Like, it's just, you cannot but love the character of Frank Butcher. And he's just, just adorable. He's a lovely character.
Miss Frank dearly.
But,
I'd, you know, if, no, you can't.
I don't think they can bring him back, to be fair.
Recast?
Well, he's had a funeral, but he did have his own fake funeral before, so perhaps third time's a charm. Bring back Frank.
Can you imagine? In a shocking twist, Frank Butcher returns. Recast.
With Pat.
Character. With Pat. Pat's been recast as well, because Pam St. Clement has gone, are you mad? That's a stupid story. I'm not coming back for that. And the pair of them just returns to the square. There you go. Played by Judi Dench and Jeffrey Palmer. Anyway, so, yeah,
right. It writes itself.
It does, see? Why aren't we employed? So, it's interesting now because basically, so Kat has kind of begrudgingly said that Janine can spend some time with Scarlett at Christmas, despite the fact that Mick has tried to do this as a nice thing to Janine and Janine bit his head off. So the question now, I suppose, remains is to how Janine will inevitably mess this up. Because at the moment, it's presumably what she's going to do is that she's going to try and drip feed poison into Scarlett's ear and sort of try and mess things up for Kat and then try and take Scarlett away from the wreckage that she's planning on leaving behind her. But that's presumably going to go wrong in some way, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that it also might go wrong in another route. Do you think her and Mick could cause something happen between them two? Because you said yourself, like she's feeling like she's a bit lonely at Christmas. Her family's pretty much all but gone. And well, Tiff is going. Her only family left. Tiff is going. And she said like her dad wasn't really a father figure to her. She, as you said, Mick feels a bit like a Frank Butcher. She's maybe looking at him the same way. So for comfort, perhaps she will get closer to him. Hopefully, though, Mick will push away the advances. If that should happen, I'm sure he will.
Isn't it quite sad that we don't know? Isn't it quite sad that we don't know that he would? We're not. Once upon a time, that would have been certain. Once upon a time, we'd have been like, well, you know, Janine's onto a sore one there. Whereas now we're kind of like, we think Janine won't get very far with that, but you never know. I mean, ultimately, I would quite like Linda to return and to have this massive sort of rivalry with Janine for Mick's affections. As long as Mick never goes there, that would be nice. That would be a nice little. That would be a nice little rivalry for Janine to have. Yeah. It makes me a bit nervous because Janine's an attractive woman, you know, and Mick's wife's away. He's not got anybody to sort of entertain him at the moment, so let's hope not.
I love that you said Janine's an attractive woman and Mick's wife's not there at the moment. Nothing nice to say about Danny Dyer.
No, Danny Dyer's a gorgeous man. I didn't mean it like that. I meant from Mick's perspective, Janine is a gorgeous woman. Yes. Don't try and get me into trouble with Danny Dyer.
I know you. No, I won't. I wouldn't put that on fun anyone. You'll be like one of the balls in the wall.
They call me a melt. They call me a melt and a slice, and I can't deal with that kind of rejection. Yes.
Another story, actually, interestingly, is between Stuart and Rainie, where Stuart's been complaining all week of having a rash, feeling very itchy, goes sees the doctor, and has discovered that he has breast cancer. I
can't go with another cancer storyline.
I don't know why, but I find this. I mean, I know that you're not keen on it because we've already been through the muck that was Jean's storyline of basically a year of waiting to find out whether Jean actually still had cancer or not. Yeah. Absolutely nothing at all. Are you happy to see another cancer storyline just with a male perspective?
No,
I mean, it's interesting that he's got breast cancer. No.
Yeah, no, that's a good issue to bring up, actually. Yes, no, male breast cancer is something that I don't think's really been covered before. I don't think he's got it though. This is the thing. I don't know whether it seems even for EastEnders to be a little bit soon for someone else to have a cancer storyline. Even this. No, I don't. There could be an array of things wrong with him. Obviously, I mean, maybe it's a lesson. I didn't know that cancers potentially could start off with rashes and all of that. I presumed it's supposed to be lumps and stuff and kind of bumps in the skin that he was discovering. So then went to the doctors about that. What I did enjoy was the fact that Rainie...
Yeah, that was another strange thing. Sorry, that was another strange thing, because they didn't really explain whether the rash was linked to the breast cancer. It was kind of... maybe I missed a line. I'm sure people will comment below on YouTube and let me know.
No, but what I quite liked was that when they were in the cafe at the start of the week, Stuart and Rainie were sat there having breakfast in the cafe at the start of the week, and Stuart is literally sitting there, clutching his chest, having chest pains, and Rainie's only suggestion is, it's alright, I'll dress up as a nurse later, and we'll have sex, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, let's have sex.
Rainie's healing vagina will make everything fine. It's essentially what the message of our scene was, wasn't it? I'll dress up as a nurse, and you'll be fine.
If I could, Rob, this week's episode of the podcast would be called Rainie's Healing Vagina. I don't think it would get past.
Nothing stopping you.
I don't think it would get past the Podbean censorship, to be fair. I could maybe, especially YouTube. We might get in trouble for that. I don't really know what much to say, really. I suppose this is a story that will just continue.
Am I wrong though? That's essentially essentially what she was saying, wasn't it? Like, you've got chest pains. If a man of Stuart's age starts having chest pains, the first thing you're supposed to do really is ring a doctor, or at least an ambulance, and say, my husband's having chest pains. Can you come and make sure he's okay, please? Not da 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 da. You know, it's not really a cure for chest pains, really. But yeah, either way, this is going to be one of these things now, isn't it? Where Stuart is just going to keep it secret, isn't he? He's not going to tell anybody because they never do. They never do. None of them ever do. As soon as anyone gets diagnosed with anything remotely serious on any soap whatsoever, he'll keep it quiet to himself for a good 2-3 months. Rainie will kind of look at him and go, "Why are you behaving oddly?" And Stuart will act oddly, more oddly than he normally does, and people won't notice. And then he will presumably find out one way or the other what exactly is wrong with him. That's my prediction. But I do think that breast cancer in males is a good topic to bring up because I think it's very underrepresented. You know, we're supposed to be checking our bits and pieces, boys, as much as the girls are. And girls, yes, you should be doing it, but apparently we need to be aware of everything that's going on in our bodies. So that's quite a good message to send out. I don't know whether that is the message they're sending out, but it's a message. So, what do you think?
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. When I heard it was breast cancer, male breast cancer, and you're right, it's very rare. It's not something they've done on EastEnders before. Perhaps they've done it on other soaps, don't know. I felt a bit like it was a missed opportunity if they were going to do a male cancer storyline, not to do a testicular cancer storyline. Because I feel like that would be more interesting, and also the grief, because for breast cancer in a woman, the big thing for breast cancer in a woman, speaking as a man, so obviously I don't know everything, but from the way from people I've spoken to,
speaking as someone without a breast,
and
yes,
and so it's a very difficult situation for a woman in that situation, because that's their femininity that they're losing.
Yes,
when it comes to testicular cancer, a man can lose a testicle. And that's their masculinity perhaps being taken away from them. And for me, that would have been a more interesting story, especially with Stuart, who's a very kind of alpha kind of guy, or he likes to perceive himself as one. And for me, that would have been a story I would have liked to, a road I would have liked to taken. Yes, breast cancer in males is very rare. Yes, you're right. Men should check as much as women should check themselves. In all areas. I don't know. I just felt like a testicular cancer story would have been more suited for Stuart, for me. But then not all of us has Rainie's healing vagina, so
no. And the other thing, of course, is talking of
who knows
Rainie,
where it's going to end.
Talking of Rainie and her healing powers, I feel that kind of story she would have noticed something. She would have sort of maybe been kind of quite aware of what was going on with his bits and pieces. I would have thought, and it might, and the whole kind of keeping it secret thing wouldn't have been possible. So. Yeah, it kind of swings around about. To be fair, in all honesty, in terms of the story, cancer's cancer, isn't it? it doesn't really matter where in the body it is.
Of course.
The soaps are basically, it's all going to be handled more or less the same way, isn't it? It's about how they do the story. It's about how we see the character reacting to it. It's about how we see what message they're trying to get across from it. And I do applaud them doing male breast cancer because, it's a rare thing. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's very much the start of the story. I think at the moment, I feel like there's going to be a bit more to it. Because it was, I don't know. Too early on, I think, to judge or throw any sort of assertions at it yet. But we'll see what happens.
Right then, one of the big story this week then is where Tiff, Keegan and Aaron, where Tiff posted a social media post about the nativity basically not happening at Walford School. She took it out of context because it had nothing to do with any kind of race or religion reasons. It was just that they're behind on schoolwork. No one likes nativity plays anyway. Ask any parent. They claim they love seeing their little ones playing sheep.
Can't wait to see the
lambs
nativity
and,
this year. No one's ever said that.
Yeah.
No one's ever said that.
No one ever said that.
No one ever said
Not
that.
once. Not once in their lifetimes. So I think parents were kind of quietly happy.
Yeah, just in the same way that no Muslim has ever turned around and said, I find the notion of a nativity play really offensive. No Muslim's ever said that either. So, all in all, this was...
No, exactly that.
Never been said. Never been said once.
Never been said. Never been said. Despite what the Daily Mail may tell you. But Tiff posted something saying, save our nativity, hashtag whatever.
And half the EDL
she didn't get many likes. Yeah, then Aaron posted it, but put English flags all over her face. I mean, that's not a Snapchat filter, is it? I don't know. Yes, as you say, then most of the EDL turned up, started threatening Keegan and Isaac as well. And then when Keegan left the pub later on, he got beaten up. It was a good scene. I did feel like it was, them doing it in Market Street was a bit weird because you'd think that doing it in such an open public place, but obviously they did it for the reason that they could do the shot of Aaron stood there in front of that mural on the wall. And it was a bit that felt a bit shoehorned.
I thought it was quite interesting. I noticed it for what it was. That shot, I got it. I got the point of it, and I got why they were doing it. It didn't feel particularly shoehorned in for me. I can understand why you might think it was. I don't know. It sort of worked for me because that mural has sort of been there in the background and it kind of appeared. And then we had one line right at the start where Ian said something about wokeism. And then that was it, and the mural was just kind of there. So this is the first time for a long, long time since it's arrived that we've really sort of acknowledged it. So it didn't feel that shoehorned in. If that had happened, if this scene had happened the week that mural was brought in, then yes, I would have said the whole thing was shoehorned in. But because that mural has been there for so long, it sort of worked for me because it was almost as though a director had gone, ooh. It's almost like opportunity. It was a good opportunity, I don't know, different strokes, I guess, but no, I didn't mind it.
But do you think that if that mural hadn't been painted on that wall, then they would have filmed that scene on Market Street, or they would have filmed it perhaps around the corner where the memorial was, or near where the tube station was, or just somewhere where it was quieter? Because there was obviously undertones as well. A lot of people related to when Shaquille got stabbed, and that was done down the back alley of the Vic. So it was done in a very quiet area. So do you not think that if there wasn't the opportunity for that shot, then they could have maybe done it maybe that scene would have been done somewhere quieter?
Maybe. I didn't really think about it that much, to be honest. I see what you mean. The thing is, it's not beyond the storytelling for people to get beaten up on that street fairly regularly, and it's not even this era. That's been always so many people have been beaten in that street. So that's why I didn't really feel that different. It didn't, in the middle of the night, nobody around. I bought it, to be honest. Maybe I was just being naive to it all, but I didn't overthink it. But I can see what you mean. Let us know in the comment section. What did you think?
Maybe I'm overthinking it, like you say. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it. It just felt too public. But you're right, CCTV, all kinds of things get
That's always
lost
my issue
in the square. So
it's always my issue.
And as I said, Martin got swung from the bridge too, and I think we made that argument that time as well. So I suppose you're right. It's a
Nothing
spot.
will ever
But
be
the
that
shot
bad.
was a lovely shot.
Mm.
No, it was a beautiful shot. The shot of seeing the shadows of Keegan getting beaten up along the back of the wall with the mural on it, and Aaron stood there, kind of like going, "Yeah, I like that." You know, that was a good shot. It was a very good shot. I wondered if they would have done that shot if that mural hadn't been there. But then I suppose you work with what you've got and what you're given with, and I suppose you're absolutely right. That mural's been there for well over a year. They've not really linked to it before now. So yeah, I see. But anyway, we're talking far too much about that. Let's talk about the actual bits and
story.
pieces.
How do you think it's going, this story, at the moment? Because you said, I remember the last time we spoke about this storyline, you said that for you the pacing was a bit off with this story, and you weren't too keen on how quickly it's all sort of been established that Aaron is essentially head of this little gang. How do you feel? How do you feel about it after this week?
I still think they're doing it too quickly. I think there's been time for it to kind of breathe and kind of for us to kind of absorb it very well. I mean, there's been some wonderful pieces of dialogue with Mitch this week. With the interaction between Aaron and Tiff, I thought was very good too. The fact that the Aaron as a character is just, every time he's on screen, it just puts my heckles up. It's brilliantly
this is the thing,
portrayed, and
this is
acted,
the thing,
and fantastic. It's just that and so to be fair, the way they've done Aaron has been brilliant. I just kind of wish that they just slowed down a little bit beforehand. I mean, I was under the impression that they were doing the big kind of ending to it around Christmas and New Year time. However, I've heard contrary reports of that now, and that perhaps it's maybe being moved a little bit closer to the anniversary in February.
Well, that'll give it more breathing room, but won't it? I hope so, actually, because it's a very important story to tell, and I agree with you, actually. Aaron's character is, for me, Aaron is really working as a character, because every time I see him, I want to reach through. You know, he's a villain, isn't he? So he's a psychopathic villain. And compare him to the other villains that we've had the past few months, you know. The difference between Aaron and Grey, I think that with Aaron, I want to reach through the screen and slap him. With Grey, I want to reach through the screen and slap the writers. You know, so there's a bit of it feels like it feels like there's a bit of a difference. I enjoyed it. Friday's episode was interesting because it seemed like something so typical of what we've been going at the minute is that we jumped massively to a time. We ended the previous episode with Keegan unconscious on the floor, having been beaten horribly by this gang. And then the next time we see him, he's in a hospital bed. He's been found. He's apparently got his collapsed lung. Most of the square knows about what's happened. I would have liked to have seen a bit of a sort of initial reaction to that, to Keegan being. I would like to have seen him being found. I'd quite like to have seen Karen finding out. You know, dare I use the word, a little bit of aftermath from the event. But you know, we got what we got.
Calm down, Rob.
So I know. So at the minute, kind of Keegan is not in a great shape in hospital with a collapsed lung. Tiff is feeling horrendously guilty, and she's sort of seen Aaron for what he is. I think she's maybe sort of seen Aaron as responsible for things. Now, I did see a few people sort of saying that it felt out of character for Tiff not to see what was going on with Aaron at the time. Now, I can see that, but I also can see the fact that Tiff has been more than blind to people's evilness before. I avert your eyes to the whole Evie saga, you know, when Evie was literally abusing her and slapping her in cafes, and she was just blind to the whole thing, and also the fact that she was essentially using Aaron to get back at Keegan anyway. So I feel like she was kind of like a little bit blind to it, but I don't know, how did you feel? Did you feel it was in character or out of character for Tiff?
I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I felt like Tiff would have spotted it sooner, especially at the dinner table when Aaron was having a go at Bobby, and Bobby kind of stood to his own, which was brilliant. It's funny you should say that about Evie, because that's something I always kind of linked Tiff's kind of person. I think Tiff just wants someone to pay her attention. Again, it's almost a bit like Janine. She just wants, must be a butcher thing. She just wants someone to kind of give her attention. Yeah, and Aaron gave her that attention, and so she was able to. And also, she had a lot to drink that night as well. Don't forget. Not that it's an excuse. Don't get me wrong. I know it's not an excuse. The apologies I made last week, but it's if you've had a bit to drink, then it can kind of alter the way you are. And so, if she had been sober and she'd been shown that picture of her with the England flag over her face, then perhaps she might have been a bit like, what have you done that for, Aaron? But instead she was a bit like, that's weird, and kind of let it go. I think it's sad though that she's not defended herself more when she was round Keegan's bedside, and Karen had every right to have a go at her. But like Tiff kind of gave in too easily. I wish Tiff had kind of taken that battering, for lack of a better term, from Karen, and then kind of come back the next day and then be talked to Karen, because Karen can be quite reasonable. But Tiff kind of instantly just took it as in like, well, that's the end of our relationship then. Obviously Keegan's not going to forgive me for this, and then signed the divorce papers.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it's going to be a kind of situation where when Keegan does get better, she basically says to him like, do you want me? And if you don't want me, then that's going to be basically her exit. Keegan eventually does say, after this, there's nothing more between us anymore.
My lug hurts, love. No, I don't. Essentially, yeah. You could be right. It's a shame. It is a shame because I quite liked Tiff and Keegan together, and it seems like this is sort of the end of them for good now. Where Aaron goes from here, I don't know. He's it's quite clear now, I think, that he is quite powerful within his little gang. So he can essentially...
Yes.
Well, he can essentially summon them, can't he? Like, those England flags were essentially like more...
like Gandalf.
Honestly, well, yeah, literally. It was kind of like those England flags were like the Death Eater's mark in the sky, weren't they? Like, he puts these pictures on and they all flock down. It's quite bad, isn't it, that the England flag, that essentially was just a flag about England, is slowly but surely getting put in the same sort of bank as the Confederate flag, isn't it? Like, we just associate it now with...
I know.
That feels...
I agree. It's weird, isn't it?
It feels bad, doesn't it? But at the same time, that is also how it's being used in some respects as well. So that's anyway. That's another podcast altogether. Let's not get into all that. Although to be fair, the show does seem to be inviting us to having these discussions, because predictably after Thursday and Friday's episodes, there was good reactions, there was negative reactions to this sort of story, which you could argue is what a story like this should do. It should create debate. It should start conversations up, which is why I love this storyline, if I'm honest. And love seems like a very strong word to use for a right-wing extremist story. However, I love it. And it's my favourite storyline in EastEnders at the moment. Yeah. And Janine's back. So that's how much I'm really enjoying this story, because I think it's an important story to tell, actually. I think it's very important to tell. I think Charlie Farnham, who plays Aaron, is doing an amazing job, because I genuinely want to punch him. And this is the thing. The sort of dialogue he's been given, we've all heard it. We have all heard the exact lines that are coming out of his mouth. In recent years, this sort of thing is really building. Using phrases like wokeism, which is one of the most stupid expressions to come out of the past 10 years. But it's there, it's in the vernacular, and it's used as a weapon. And that is what is happening in this storyline. So I have to say, yeah, if you feel that the pacing is a little bit off in places, maybe for me, I have to say it's working. But I hope actually that you're right, and that the anniversary is where we're heading to this, rather than sort of in a couple of weeks' time and it's all done and dusted. That would be wrong, because that sort of smacks of a bit of the conveyor belt, doesn't it? Like, and now this is the sign that we need right-wing extremism. And now we're on to male breast cancer. And now it would be nice to sort of trying to drag this out a little bit. But we'll see where it goes. We've got a busy few weeks ahead, I feel, so we'll see.
Certainly have. Going to very quickly talk about Mila, Keoni and Iqra's story. Yes. Because Mila's mum has now been convicted. And she's now gone to prison. Keoni felt a bit quiet, but then she found her voice when Bobby started doing a consultation of what they should do to do a fundraiser for the mosque. Waseem came along, was very upset because they decided to have this group meeting in a gay nightclub, but then was promptly chucked out by Iqra and by Mila, then they decided they're going to be a nice little family unit. I mean, the one thing that this really kicked me in the gut was the fact that it's not been, June time since they talked about the FGM storyline, this big storyline. They've never done anything like it before. And I just feel like I've learned nothing, like nothing from it. Like, obviously it's encouraged, do your own research, learn about it. But like, so like, what felt like a hit and a miss for me.
There was so much
we
story
never see court scenes
there,
anymore.
No, and the thing is, we haven't seen this week. I think it's the first time we've seen Mila for quite a while. You know, so all of this was going on. This was an opportunity for us to really go into the legalities behind it all. We should have gone to court. I think Keoni, this kid has had her mum taken away because her mum tried to do that to her. Why aren't we exploring as to what this is doing to this kid? You know, how old is she? 9, 10, something? That's really damaging for a kid. Yeah. I would have loved to, and once upon a time we would have gone to the courtroom and we would have, we would have had Iqra. So this could have been the storyline, I think, that cemented Iqra and Mila's relationship, because Iqra could have stood up to the plate, supported Mila through this as she watched her mum, and she would then have had to have gone to court and relived everything that she did as evidence. The whole story, the whole kit and caboodle was there for the taking, and none of it was taken apart. Yeah. Real shame and a real disappointment. Naughty EastEnders. But yeah, so that's happening now. So I guess now we're sort of in the... Oh, honestly, it annoyed me. And when I started talking about it, I realised how annoyed I was at it. Because Mila and Iqra's relationship has been so underrepresented. If they put as much effort into some of the relationships as they do to Ballum, then we wouldn't be having half of the problems with relationships that we have on the show at the moment, in my opinion. So that's that on that. Cue the abuse.
You know what?
Anyway,
summed it up perfectly. I cannot add any more to that. That's perfect, Rob. Well, that's all you needed to say.
Well, thank you. What I would say, though, meanwhile, is the whole thing with Waseem. And I thought it was quite interesting.
Yes.
So they were having this meeting about the mosque in the Prince Albert. Now, admittedly, the Prince Albert, while it is supposed to be a gay bar, we have more straight characters spend time in there than we do gay characters. So there's that for a start. I don't believe for a second that the likes of I don't believe for a second that the likes of Mitch and Billy Mitchell would choose to spend their time in the Prince Albert, no matter how the show seems to be saying everybody likes gays in EastEnders. Even Phil doesn't mind gays in EastEnders these days. To be fair, they've managed to resist the urge to watching a random scene where Phil sat there having an orange juice in the Prince Albert so far. But I thought it was interesting that you could mirror Waseem and Aaron's dialogue about the mosque meeting being in the Prince Albert.
That's
now what was
exactly where my mind went. Exactly that. I thought that too, and it has a weird kind of interesting, intriguing idea in my head that obviously the storyline where the mosque gets presumably there's going to be a bomb in the mosque, or there's going to be a bomb on Albert Square or attacked. It kind of then plants the seed as are they going down the road that it could be Aaron or it could be Waseem? Yeah,
it was interesting. There's got to be a reason why Waseem is a character, because at the minute it sort of seems to be. Because without Waseem, it's essentially the Muslims of the square versus Aaron and his little gang would be essentially where the story would be going. But Waseem is an interesting component in it, and he's been brought in for a reason. I feel so. I think it's going to be interesting to see which side of the fence he lands on, and whether Aaron will see him and think that's someone I can use. And sort of go in there and say, look, they're turning against you. Look at what they're doing to the Muslim community. Like, isn't this wrong? And use him as a weapon in some respects. I don't know. There's potential there. There is huge potential there for this to be a really interesting turning point for this story, and for Waseem to be quite a key component in the story. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but interesting.
Indeed, exciting, lovely. Well, that was this week's. That was This Week in Walford. Nice little roundup there. I think we've got some time just to talk about some of the stories that have happened out of the square on I Ain't One to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't one to gossip.
So this week on I Ain't One to Gossip, we had a caption competition on our Twitter and our Instagram. Don't forget you can follow us at Walford Weekly. More details at the end of the show from Rob. And it's basically a photo that they released for Christmas week. Mm-hmm. It's of Whitney whispering in Chelsea's ear, but what is she whispering in Chelsea's ear as Gray stands there looking stoned faced at the camera. That's what, or stoned
for a
who knows, it could be.
Yeah.
yeah. Do you want to call her? If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the picture at the bottom of the screen right now. Plus the captions that people have sent in to us. So, Rob, what I would like you to do is I'm going to read some of them out to you.
Okay.
And I would like you to choose the winner. So Rob is the judge. So if you don't agree with the winner, then
nice.
Message Rob.
Nice, yeah, nice.
Twitter details will now be put right big at the bottom of the screen.
Great.
So, here we go, Rob. Let's go. So, on Twitter, @brobar1 said, "Can I borrow your mask? I need to take the tube to the West End."
Nice. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, okay. Nice. Yeah.
Got that one? Good.
Good.
@Die Hutchson on Twitter had said, "Ask him if he wants fries with his order."
Yeah. Shady. Yeah, like it. Yeah. Okay.
Shady. Daniel.wade44 on Instagram said, "OMG, did you see Karen's outfit? What was she thinking?"
To be fair, that's probably more close to the truth, because Karen is good for the outfits on a wedding day. Yeah. In retrospect, that one might win in terms of what Karen ends up wearing for the wedding. We'll see.
Okay, so you can always go back.
Posthumous award for that one, maybe.
@Spielman Tom on Twitter said, "Nice dress. Will be good for soaking up the blood. Wine. I mean, soaking up the wine."
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Well, these are good. Oh, you give this to me.
Yeah, they are good. We've got good listeners on our show. @TheQualityDan on Twitter said, "I saw that suit on clearance rail in Debenhams."
Yeah. Probably was, to be fair. His wages at the moment. Yeah. Is that it? Am I going to choose from them?
Make me up.
One more.
Yeah, well, there's a couple more. Would you like a couple more?
Yeah, please. Make my life harder. Okay. Why not?
Make Me Up Victoria on Instagram has said, "Did you know he's going out with Tracy and Emmerdale and he's going to be a dad?"
I like that. For some
reason that tickled me.
I like that one. Yeah, what was that person's name?
That person was Make Me Up Victoria.
Because for a second I thought that was the next caption. Make me up Victoria. I thought that was what you were saying at the line. Did I miss that? Was that meta? I don't know. Yeah, okay, so carry on.
They should have used their own name, you see. And finally, Melissa on Twitter has said, "I heard he burnt all the burgers and put too much salt on the fries."
Probably did as well. Oh, that's hard.
Thank you very much. But which one is the best caption, Rob?
Honestly, grow up. I think I will say it's because it made me giggle the most. I think I will say Make Me Up Victoria was the winner for that one. I liked that one. That was my winner personally. I think we'll go for that. Make Up Victoria. Well done. You have won the caption competition. Hurrah! What did she win? Apart from my approval, which is enough.
Oh. Just the pride of winning. Do you think we should give her something? I don't know. I feel bad now. Should we give Victoria something?
Oh, okay. Start this again. That's fine.
Yeah. It was a bit of fun. Don't you?
Oh.
It's a bit of fun.
It doesn't tell me the rules for any. It doesn't tell me the rules for any of these competitions. It's like, oh, you're the judge. You're the judge for this. It didn't even tell me there was a caption competition going on. I didn't even see it till it was on Twitter. And now he tells me that I'm the Shirley Ballot who has the deciding vote. And that doesn't tell me what you get for winning. I get none of this information, Victoria. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, there you go. Well done. It was very good caption.
I am rubbish.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well done, Victoria.
I'm
sorry.
Well
I apologise to Rob then for not keeping him updated with anything we do or say,
honestly.
And I apologise to Victoria for basically everything. I'm sorry. I've been drunk for a week. What do you want from me?
Well done, everybody else, though. They were all very, very good. I like caption competitions. We should do them more often. We should make that a thing that we do around this time of the show. When we have a good promo picture, we'll put that as a caption competition.
But if we do have another caption competition, then Rob, how can people find that said caption competition?
Well, as it happens, Alex, they can contact us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly, and they can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, they should not forget to like, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications about the spoiler videos. And they can also listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, or any of their favourite podcast sites. You can email me at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com, or him on alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. So, Alex, we are officially in December. It is EastEnders Christmas month. The Christmas schedules, by the way, have been released, and they look crazy. I think EastEnders is on 8 times in a row at one point. And it's also on at 10 p.m. on Boxing Day, I think I read somewhere as well. So iPlayer will be your friend, I feel.
I believe so. I mean, it's going to be a crazy over Christmas week. So just if you're listening to the podcast or following us on social media, keep following us to stay updated of exactly what's going to happen with our podcast coming out around that time, because it's going to be all over the place.
But we will be back at the same time next week under perfectly normal circumstances. So until then, it is farewell from me.
And it's fair-de-bye from me.
Fair-de-bye, ta-ta for now. Bye!